This week's episode is brought to you by Dharma Razors, because they're never done.
For sure, if we fade, then it's a lie. But you know we are the sun, and we'll walk
This
through
is
the
Lost Bones for episode 13, entitled The Last Recruit. This week we'll start to see how it's all coming together, make myself look like even more of a Star Wars geek, and find out why I think Jack is safe and sound. What we learned this week goes into the category of how to better reveal things on the show. Very calmly and in a deliberate manner, we were revealed as to what the deal was with Christian Shepherd in Season 1. It adds a bit of intrigue in several respects, but at least we're going somewhere. Also, the Boom World, for a lack of a better term, is collapsing on itself with characters, which is awesome. Open in the Dud World, where Flock wants to catch up with Jack, who needs permission from Hurley just to go. Despite the neediness of asking like he's a kid wanting to go to the bathroom, I'm really enjoying this new non-leader Jack. Jack knows that this isn't the real John Locke, and asks the question that has been bugging him since he found out that this guy was capable of looking like other people. Did the Man in Black ever impersonate Christian Shepherd? The answer is yes. The why? Because they needed to find water. So, even when John Locke was inside of the well at the donkey wheel, that was the Man in Black telling him to say hello to his son for him. Inside the cabin, telling Locke to move the island, that was the Man in Black. When Hurley looked into the cabin and saw the man in the rocking chair, that was the Man in Black. On the freighter, telling Michael that he could go now, that was the Man in Black. Since the Man in Black told him he can go now, I can assume one big thing. The Whispers are not of the Man in Black's doing. If, based on the reveal from last week, shows us anything, it means that the Whispers are people who are stuck on the island by some other force, either Jacob or the third party, the island. In this regard, are we to assume that the Whispers are a vehicle for good? One big question that still bugs me: how come when he was one of the Oceanic Six in the real world, Jack saw visions of Christian Shepherd? This doesn't really jive with the Man in Black being stuck on the island. Furthermore, what is the deal with the black ring of ash around the cabin? Was there always a complete circle preventing the Man in Black from crossing over, or preventing him from getting out? Before they burnt down the cabin, Alana's crew found a break in the ash. When was that created? Back in the Boom World, Locke is being rushed to the hospital after being hit by Desmond, and Ben is trying to control his emotions like crazy. Man, if he wasn't paralyzed already. And they arrive at the hospital just as Sun and Jin arrive. Remember, Sun was shot, and she's pregnant. And Sun recognizes Locke. It's him! She looks terrified, and now it's official. Sun has seen flashes of the alternate timeline. The question becomes, how come Locke hasn't recognized anybody from the Dud World? Desmond hit him with a car. How much more do you have to go through? Furthermore, does Desmond know how to handle each of these situations? He spoke to Hurley. He has to hit Locke with his car, and then later on we'll find out that he just simply introduces Claire to a lawyer, who turns out to be Alana. What I mean is, where is Desmond getting his instructions? Unless, of course, he is, as people have theorized, the new Jacob and all-knowing. Back in the Dud World, and Jack and Claire have both been aware for a while that they are brother and sister. Jack found out at his father's funeral via Claire's mother, and Claire found out via her fake father, who turned out to be Flock. But man, where was the real body of Christian Shepherd back in Season 1? Remember, the coffin was empty. Jack doesn't know if he'll leave the island, as if he wants to stay. Claire knows that he will leave the island because he decided to follow Flock the second that he let him speak to him. So Jack belongs to Flock. Or does he? Remember that Richard spoke to the Man in Black first, and then Jacob. And Richard was able to overcome evil and turn to Jacob. Although, with Jacob dead, how can there be an opposing force for good? Did Jacob dying change the rule about being spoken to by the Man in Black? Do any of these people have hope now? Sawyer tells Hurley about the sub that Widmore has, the plan, and who's involved. What about Saeed? Saeed has gone over to the dark side. Who can bring people back from the dark side? Who the heck is Anakin? At least I know one thing. My Star Wars references were not in vain. It's so nice to have everyone back together again. That's such a creepy line. Boom World. and Sawyer is interrogating Kate. Please, for the love of God, do not let Sawyer and Kate be true loves. Based on what she said, we are to assume that Sawyer let Kate go because he didn't want anyone to know that he was in Australia. And Miles gets a call about the murders at the restaurant done by Saeed. Everything is coming together. Dud World, where Zoe walks into the Empire camp. Man, for a geophysicist, this girl's got no fear. She shows Flock what they're capable of by firing explosives all the way from Hydra Island, and Flock doesn't even flinch. That was hardcore. Widmore's people want Desmond back. Flock breaks the walkie-talkie as if he is saying, bring it on, and we know that the war is about to begin. Boom World, where Claire has an appointment with an adoption agency.
Floor 15, anyone?
What is she doing there? Is she just filling out paperwork, or is she still planning on giving away this baby? She runs into Desmond, the matchmaker. Seriously, Desmond is like stalking these people. And he knows someone who can help her? Who? Who's the name of the lawyer? Why, it's Alana. Alana's last name is Verdansky. Based on this website I found, I'd like to read you an excerpt. The following concept was first formulated by Vladimir Verdansky and elaborated by Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, pushed one against the other by the growth of their number and by the proliferation of their connections, approached one to the other by the reawakening of a common force and by the feeling of a common anxiety, the future humankind will form nothing but a unified consciousness. Dare I quote one of the greatest philosophers of all time from Bill the Tenth's Excellent Adventure, but whoa. Just in case you were wondering, Vladimir Verdansky was a geochemist and is considered one of the founders of geochemistry, biochemistry, and radiogeology. So apparently the lawyers have been looking for Claire. Wait, seriously? This is not a coincidence. This is crazy. Back in the Dud World, and Flock declares a confrontation. Not quite a war, but we're getting there. The music during this getting ready scene really felt like the Empire during Star Wars. Sawyer plans on still going through with his agreement with Widmore, and he plans on saving everyone except for Saeed and Claire. It's like Sawyer has his own list that he gives to Jack. Flock gives Saeed the mission of killing Desmond. Of course he still wants what he asked for. The woman he loved and lost. But what exactly will Flock grant him? Have you ever noticed that Saeed has not said the name of the woman that he loved and lost? By the way, this was an awesome shot of Saeed walking up with a gun. Like straight out of an action film. Desmond wants to know what Flock offered him. So the question is this. The woman that he loved and lost, Nadia or Shannon? There has to be a reason why the name has not been mentioned. Saeed knows that he died and came back, so Flock can bring her back. Desmond wants to know what Saeed will say when she asks what he did to get her back. Second degree burn, Saeed. Boom World, and Saeed tells Nadia that he has to leave and never come back. The emotional tension between them is so stinking obvious. It's like everybody knows that Saeed and Nadia love each other, except for Saeed's brother. Miles at the door, LAPD. This scene will be the pilot episode of the buddy cop show Pros and Cons, you know, the spin-off series with Miles and Sawyer. You just need a theme song. Haha! Saeed fell for the old tripping on the rope gag. Classic Sawyer. Everything is coming together. Sawyer tells Kate about their plan to leave and why they can't take Claire with them. And once again, Kate refuses to change her mind. If you wanted a reason for all the Kate hate, think of this one thought. Kate is one of the few characters on the show who has made no progression in her life. Even after 3 years of raising Aaron, she is still the same person who crashed on the island. Kate. They're swimming with guns, and they still expect them to work? Why does Claire trust Flock? Because he's the only one who didn't abandon her. Sun can't speak English, and Flock isn't the one responsible for it. Is this the moment that Flock realizes that his plan might not be as perfect as he thinks it is? Jack sets forth Sawyer's plan into action, but Claire sees them squirking away. Squirking. Saeed catches up with Flock very calmly as usual. He says that he killed Desmond, but the obvious revelation is he didn't. Da-da-da! I mean, that would have been a lame way to kill him off-screen. And with his storyline of being brought back to the island to do something, he can't die yet. I'm just saying. Desmond's alive. They all get to the boat, and Claire walks up with her gun. Oh, please shoot Kate. Kate tries to appeal to the human side left inside of Claire. Oh man, they're playing that emotional music. Please shoot her. I've got a bad feeling about this, says the Star Wars reference before Kate convinces Claire to go with them. Yes, please take the gun away from the crazy person. Seriously. Claire knows that when Flock finds out what's going on, he won't be happy. Boom World, where Jack and his son walk in. At first, I thought that Jack's son looked like a tiny human. But they're bonding, and that's pretty awesome. Oh wow, they're there to read Christian Shepherd's will. And at this point, the dots are connected. The lawyers were looking for Claire because she's mentioned in the will. Do you believe in fate? And just as Jack and Claire are connecting at an emotional high, finding out that they're brother and sister, cell phone, he has to go into the hospital to work on a patient who we later find out is John Locke. It's all coming together. Dud World, and Sawyer is sailing away. Wait a minute, that's Desmond's boat. I mean Libby's boat. I mean, the Elizabeth. Jack doesn't feel right about leaving the island because he knows how he felt the first time he left. He knows that the island isn't done with him and he still has to do something. Hey, did you notice that Jack called Sawyer James? Sawyer says to get off my boat in one of the closest reproductions of Air Force One's Get Off My Plane. Sawyer wants his crazy talk off the boat, but Jack is totally committed. He apologizes for getting Juliet killed and he makes the leap of faith. By that simple jump, Jack has literally and figuratively been baptized into the faith of the island. More later in Theory of the Week. Boom World, son wakes up in the hospital and the baby's fine. Yay! Finn says they're going to be okay. Yay! No mention of recognizing John Locke. The fact that Jack and his son are so cool with each other now, it just makes me like Boom World Jack all the more. It's because of the progress he made to become a better father. Jack's got this. Surgery. Come on. And Jack recognizes the man he's about to work on as the man he met at the airport. Dun-dun-dun! Dud World, Jack makes his way up onto the beach and up walks Flock. Meanwhile, Sawyer and his crew make it back to Hydra Island. Why does Kate think that a gun will work after being submerged in water? Zoe and Widmore's people confront them. And it's a very good thing she said to turn the pylons off because up walks Jin. And we get the reunion that we've all been waiting for since the freighter blew up. And come on, it was kind of lame. I was so much more emotionally affected by the reunion in Season 2. Remember when the Tailies joined the Losties and Jin got back with Sun and Rose finally met up with Bernard? That was very touching. This one kind of felt rushed. Hey, you know what? Sun spoke English and I didn't even realize it. Love a girl. Lapidus actually made me realize it. Did anyone else have a fleeting moment of horror when they thought that Jin and Sun were going to get zapped by the pylons? The deal is off between Sawyer and Widmore. Flock is targeted and they're struck. Jack wakes up after being blown across the screen and Flock carries him to safety. You're with me now. Whoa. Honestly, I kept thinking like someone was gonna die tonight. First Desmond, then Kate, then Jin and Sun. Very tense episode. Liked it muchly. My first question is obvious. Who was the last recruit? They never really made it clear, but I guess we are to assume that it was Jack. Which leads me to Theory of the Week. Jack was spoken to by Flock. You're with me now. That's it. It's over. Jack is on the dark side. Cue the music of the Death Star blowing up Alderaan. But wait. Two things happened before Flock spoke to Jack and said, you're with me now. One, Jack jumped into the water, wanting to go back to the island. Just like Richard, I'm assuming that this was Jack's baptism, and thus giving him a sense of protection. Number dos. When the explosion hit to blow up Flock, Jack woke up and couldn't hear anything. So when Flock spoke to him, it is quite possible that Jack didn't hear anything. So now we're looking at Jack and Desmond on the main island, shaping up to be our heroes. They are the key players, and it's gonna be awesome. Haven't done it in a few weeks. Let's get this thing going. Fully de-bearded style. Message board. Chatter. One big theory out there is the loophole that Jacob put into place before he was killed. Jacob didn't touch John Locke until after he was paralyzed. Like 30 seconds after he was paralyzed. In being paralyzed, Flock may have lost his ability to look like anyone else on the island. His inability to turn into anyone else is the result of John Locke being paralyzed when he came to the island. We haven't seen the end result of this inability, but you can bet that it will factor into the end of the show somehow, some way. Some people are still questioning the whispers. Every other dead person that we've seen on the island, we are assuming was the Man in Black. Christian Shepherd, Yemi, Horace Goodspeed, Libby, but we've never seen anyone when it comes to the whispers up until Michael last week. I'm telling you, one answer, 15 questions. But then again, in season 2, we heard the whispers and we saw Walt and we knew he wasn't dead. What is the deal with that? What if some of the whispers are working for the Man in Black and some aren't? Please explain the whispers more. Next week's episode is entitled... Yeah, there's no new episode next week. We get a week off, and Lost will be back on May 4th with the episode entitled The Candidate. We know of several candidates, but the title implies that we may be speaking of one specifically. Which one? You pick. My face is cold.